Iran comes to the table in good faith. That's Vice President Vance's message before he took off this morning for Pakistan, where he will lead the U.S. talks.
If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The president has gave us some pretty clear guidelines.
President Trump posted on Truth Social last night, Iran's doing a very poor job allowing oil to move through the Strait of Hormuz, his key demand in agreeing to a ceasefire. The talks are tomorrow.
So there are three really major issues we're looking at here. That's Iran's support of regional proxies and whether or not they're going to tie the success and outcome of these negotiations to support of Hezbollah. We're also looking at the Strait of Hormuz, where since the ceasefire began, anywhere from 8 to 11 vessels have been able to pass through, and Israeli intelligence officials tell Fox News the Iranians are demanding fees of those vessels that are making it through this critical waterway. And then finally, you have this issue of enriched uranium.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv, where Israel's continued attacks on Lebanon remain a big point of contention for Iran. Oil prices are up slightly after Wednesday's big plunge and remain about 50% higher than before the Iran conflict started, and that is not the only inflation we have.
The Consumer Price Index rose 0.9% in March. Core CPI, excluding food and energy, rose just 0.2%. Not as big a jump as expected.
Fox's Ginny Casolo, the annual rate of inflation rose to 3.3%. The record-setting Artemis II mission flying around the moon ends tonight. The astronauts will enter the Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 miles an hour in a fireball protected by a heat shield that'll slow the spacecraft down. And then Fox's Jonathan Sterry reports from the Johnson Space Center.
Orion has a series of parachutes that slow it down from 350 miles an hour free fall to just about 17 to 20 miles per hour by the time it hits the water.
That'll be 8:07 p.m. Eastern Time off the coast of San Diego. America's listening to Fox News.
I didn't switch to Pure Talk just because I wanted to save 50% off the same 5G service I'd been paying twice as much for. I switched because I like the idea of being in business with a wireless company that supports our veterans in a meaningful way. Pure Talk also creates American jobs every day by keeping their entire operation in this country. I appreciate that. If you feel the same, dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is Medi-Share. Maybe you've heard joining Medi-Share can save families up to $500 a month, and obviously that's a big deal, but they like it too, especially being part of something that reflects their values instead of working against them. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. Find out more. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-30.
The station Delaware and Maryland turns to for local news. Here is another Delmarva News Update here on 92.7 WGMD, WGMD.com, and the WGMD app.
Police in Dover say a physical altercation involving several people escalated when a suspect described as wearing all black clothing, red shoes, and a camouflage ski mask fired 2 gunshots toward the group. The individual then fled westbound. He was last seen running north through an alley just west of North Governors Avenue. Police responded to the unit block of South Governors Avenue about 11:15 on April 8th, following multiple reports of the gunshots. The shooting left 3 people nursing wounds. A 57-year-old woman suffered graze wounds to her arm and chest. A 19-year-old man was shot in the lower body, and a 41-year-old man suffered a graze wound to his arm. The woman and the 19-year-old were taken to a nearby hospital. Their injuries not too bad. However, the 41-year-old declined treatment at all. The investigation remains open. If you have any information, you are urged to contact police at Dover 302-736-7145. Any tipsters can always remain anonymous. Delaware legislative leaders from both parties have introduced bipartisan legislation that would formally codify the Delaware Economic and Financial Advisory Council, which has long provided nonpartisan revenue and budget projections for the state. The proposed DuPont-Cook Financial Responsibility Act would establish DFAC in state law rather than by executive order. The goal is to preserve their role in supporting balanced budgets and fiscal transparency. Lawmakers say the measure honors the legacy of former Governor Pete DuPont and Senator Nancy Cook, who helped shape Delaware's approach to responsible financial planning. The legislation, called House Bill 370, has been assigned to the House Administration Committee. Under the bill, DFAC would continue to meet regularly, including October, December, March, May, and June, and as needed. For these and other stories, visit talkofdelmarva.com. I'm Jared Sorella.
At Accurate Pest Control, our love for animals drives us to ensure their safety. That's why we only use pet-safe chemicals when treating your yard for mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks. Our expertise is backed by almost 3 decades of service on the shore, so we can treat any pest problem with successful results. Accurate stays up to date on the latest treatment techniques, and remember, prevention is the best form of pest protection. Enjoy the outdoors without the annoyance and dangers of mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks. Accurate Pest Control, on target since 1995.
Listen up, Delmarva anglers. The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report follows the 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 4 p.m. local news and sports all throughout the week. Veteran fishing reporter, broadcaster, and local salt Eric Burnley tells us what's biting, where, and on what.
The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report is brought to you by Complete Tree Care, licensed and insured. Request an estimate at CompleteTreeCareDE.com.
Now, it's time for the Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report, featuring Eric Burnley.
Thursday was cold and windy. Patty at Captain Bones in Odessa said striped bass have been caught from Woodland Beach on bloodworms and bunker. Stripers range in size above and below the 28 to 31-inch slot. Steve at Smith Bait in Lipsick reported striped bass have been caught at Collins Beach, Greens Beach, and Woodland Beach on bloodworms and cut bunker. Here, too, the stripers range in size above and below the 21 to 38 slot. A few have been taken inside the slot as well. White perch are available in the local tidal creeks and spillways on bloodworms or minnows. Old Inlet Bait and Tackle said a few keeper tog have been caught from Indian River Inlet on sand fleas. Small stripers are taken on bucktails or plugs at dawn or dusk. Skates and dog sharks are in the surf. This is Eric Burnley with your Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report.
Broadcasting from the Mining Peak Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday is back, and here I am back at DS2, sitting behind the golden microphone. I'm your anchorman, Jake Smith. Welcome to what is officially hour number 2 of our program. The first hour is traditional terrestrial radio, and now our digital interactive streamed next 2 hours. You can watch the broadcast at realnewstalk.com. You can also watch us at Facebook Live as well. And I want to welcome in someone to our program who is someone I respect a great deal. And he is Pastor Jackson Lemire. He is now Oklahoma congressional candidate. And you remember seeing those scenes where pastors were praying over President Trump in the Oval Office? Well, it was Pastor Lemire who was the founder of Pastors for Trump. And you are now, Pastor Lemire, running for the congressional seat, District 1. How are you, sir? It's good to have you back on the broadcast. Happy Easter to you and your beautiful family.
Well, thank you so much, and likewise. And, I'm having the time of my life. Anytime you run for office, you kind of sign your life away, right? So you might as well have fun while you're doing it. And so, it's going very well. We're doing great campaign-wise. The election is June the 16th. And, it's been the honor of a lifetime to serve President Trump as leading Pastors for Trump, then also with the National Faith Advisory Board. And so this is a new adventure for me, and honored to be on with you.
Pastor, there's always this contrast between the religious life and the political life, and how they clash with each other. How do you foresee, as going to Capitol Hill as a member of Congress, 1st District for Oklahoma, and then having to maintain your life as someone who's representing Jesus Christ on earth? How do you plan to balance that out?
Yeah, it's a great question because, I think you see a lot of good-hearted, well-intentioned people who get elected to Congress for the Senate, and then they kind of lose their soul in the process, right? And so, my aim is not to win an election and lose my soul at the same time. So I think part of it is being grounded in your local community. I think that is very important, not becoming a part of DC, but staying a part of where you are from. And then obviously, for me, I'm going to continue to pastor my church. I'm not stepping away from my church in order to do this. I still want to pastor my church because I think that'll also help, keep me grounded as you're preparing to preach every Sunday and things like that. So I believe it's vital that our elected officials, although they go to DC to serve, but they stay rooted in their community, because the last thing you want to do is, be part of the swamp.
We lost your audio there for a second, but I think what you were trying to say is the last thing you want to do is become disconnected rather from your district or from your community.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what members of Congress did by not funding the Department of Homeland Security, creating 5- and 6-hour security lines, and then bypassing those security lines when they went home for the Easter holiday, right? I mean, tell me, am I wrong?
You gotta love the double standard, right?
Oh.
Rules for thee, but
And
not
not for me.
necessarily for me. You go to jail if you do insider stock trading, right? You will go to jail.
Right.
But if I do insider stock trading, well, I'm just going to become very wealthy as a member of Congress. And so these double standards, the American people can't stand it. And it's on both sides of the aisle, by the way. This is not just a Democrat
absolutely.
problem. It's also a Republican problem. And so, my commitment is to represent Oklahoma Oklahoma values of integrity and hard work and resilience. And so not becoming a part of the swamp.
Pastor Jackson Lemire is joining us. He's running for Congress in Oklahoma, his home state, District 1. And you say, and this is on your website, Washington is broken and career politicians have failed Oklahoma. Can you expand on that? Because I think Congress is broken, period. It doesn't function as the founders had envisioned it. It's just become basically something that doesn't function at all, and that is forcing the executive branch, President Trump, to act in ways that the founders had not envisioned, and it's causing problems in our nation. But what is the president supposed to do, right?
Right. I mean, Congress is gridlock, and nothing would get done. So it's interesting because whenever you look at D.C., and we talk about, you got to drain the swamp.
I try not to, Pastor. I try not to, but sometimes we must. We're pretty close here to D.C., so I try not to. But go ahead, sir, please.
And as you're looking at it, you say drain the swamp. Well, if you want to drain the swamp, you got to get rid of the creatures that are in the swamp.
The swamp creatures, yeah.
Yeah, and that's on both sides now. And so we have to send, good people for a limited amount of time. That's why I support term limits. Because, the longer you stay there, the more you become a part of it, right? So term limits, I think, are vital. Fresh blood in the system. I don't think anybody should be there for 30, 40 years, because look at who those people are on both sides, from the Nancy Pelosi's to the Mitch McConnell's. They're both equally bad for our country.
You forgot Chuck Schumer.
Oh, well, I mean, we could do this all day long, right?
No, that's true. Your thoughts about the failure to fund the Department of Homeland Security? Do you see that as congressional malfeasance in your estimation?
Of course. Of course, because you have people working, say TSA, right? They're working to make sure that we all are safe, that we can get to where we need to get to, and they're not being paid. Many of them, in order to make ends meet, they have to take time off, or they have to call in sick to TSA so they can go work some side job. That is putting America last.
People were selling their blood and plasma because they weren't getting paid, Pastor. That's terrible.
That's America last. That's putting Americans who we have to have last, and then like you said, and then the congressional leaders, they bypass those lines so they can get home. It's the hypocrisy is astounding.
We're talking with Pastor Lemire here. He is running for the 1st District congressional seat in Oklahoma. I've got some questions coming up for you with respect to birthright citizenship, the war in Iran, and so much to talk about with you. We need to take a break, though, Pastor, and then we'll be back, okay?
Sounds great.
All right. We're back with Pastor Lemire here on your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. Taking a break, back in DS2 in just a moment. Remember, you can watch the program at realnewstalk.com, Facebook Live, or you can listen via terrestrial radio as well. Our flagship stations 92.7 or 98.5, The Talk of Delmarva. Back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Sponsored by Bell House Medical, helping you age in place with mobility scooters, devices, and home modifications. Bell House Medical, 302-644-4404.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Mainly sunny skies develop, with fog in spots early today, with daytime highs approaching 69. South winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows level off around 50 tonight, mainly clear. Highs around 69 tomorrow. Mainly clear skies Sunday with a high of 67, 79 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center along the coast. Currently 45.
Springfest is heating up at Lowe's. And for a limited time, we have the extra big deals you need to impress guests. Get your outdoor space ready and save $50 on the select Cobalt 24-volt blower kit, now $79. Plus, save $150 on the Blackstone 30-inch 2-burner griddle, now $299. It's springtime, and our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/13. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/groundadvantage to learn more.
Spring is here, and that means Sandy Hill Greenhouses is now open for the season. Hi, it's Maria. The family here are excited to welcome back all of our friends as we're ready to help you bring your garden to life with locally grown plants that are happier, healthier, and made to last.
You'll find everything you need to make your outdoor space shine. And don't forget, spend your Delmarva dollars here. Visit us on Sand Hill Road in Georgetown or call 302-856-2412. See you soon!
April showers bring May flowers, but also slick road conditions. Hi, it's John from Lewis Meineke. Keep you and yours safe by getting a free tire and brake inspection. Call Lewis Meineke today, 302-827-2054.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
You're watching Your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday continues. Pastor Jackson Lemire, who's running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District. I got an interesting question, Pastor, that's been posted to our digital interactive board by our listener producer, Wolf. And this is probably something that you probably noticed from your church. And it's a question about America's spiritual future, I think. Is America on the verge of a new independent paradigm and political alignment? But I think it has to do with the soul of the country. Wouldn't you say so? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, right now, we are seeing a great move of God in our country, but also a great increase of evil in our country. The two kind of parallel one another. For example, first-time Bible sales among first-time Bible buyers is at record highs right now. What that means is people who have never owned a Bible, they're going and buying Bibles. Young men are outpacing young women to church right now. Christian music downloads on Spotify is up over 100%. That's younger generation listening to Christian music. We are seeing this great return to the church and to God, but at the same time, we are witnessing this great increase of evil and confusion. And so the soul of the nation is up for grabs right now.
So what do you make of this sudden upsurge in interest in Christian faith?
Well, I think we're seeing this great interest among Gen Z because they got pushed so far to the left with wokeism, and then the realization that that was a train wreck. You didn't know which bathroom to use. You didn't know, and you just think about stuff you and I took for granted, right? It was just like, hey, I go to the boys' bathroom, I go to the men's bathroom, depending on, that generation experienced COVID. Think about the lockdowns, the mandates, life being open. And so they're searching for truth. Wokeism failed them. And so now they're turning to the Bible, which I know will not fail this generation. That's why I'm excited, because you have a new generation that is coming forth that is turning to God.
Well, let me ask you, as a member of Congress on Capitol Hill, do you feel then emboldened to talk about the stability that this newfound interest in the Bible offers when you talk about various pieces of legislation where it actually sits with basic Christian values in a Judeo-Christian society? What do you think about that, Pastor?
Yeah, I think one of our biggest problems is that people have been leaving their faith back in their district and not taking their faith to D.C.
That's a good point.
For me, obviously, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm extremely biased. I'm a pastor. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I view things through the lens of my Bible. And I believe that my Bible helps shape this nation that I live in today, that I'm so grateful to be a part of.
And you're not bashful at saying it, are you?
No, not at all.
Right.
I mean, listen, I'm the founder of Pastors for Trump. I serve in the White House Faith Office. No shame whatsoever, no, lack of boldness in that sense, because I think historically I'm on good footing in regards to our nation was birthed from the scriptures and established through the scriptures.
I was just going to say our founders felt as you feel.
Right. So I think I'm in good company with that. I think it's an okay thing.
Pastor, what are your thoughts on birthright citizenship? And I bring that up because we know that there are issues with Congress being broken and so forth. Obviously, the 14th Amendment, we need a revision to the 14th Amendment that's only going to come through an actual convention of states, but Congress can weigh in and make it much more difficult to just bring Chinese women to this country just for birthing purposes. What are your thoughts about the birthright citizenship issue, and should Congress weigh in, and would you sponsor a bill as a sitting member of Congress to address this?
I'd do it in a moment, because I think you have to realize what was the original intent of birthright citizenship. It was not for somebody who's in a foreign nation to come over here to simply for the purpose of giving birth. That was not the original intent. I mean, you know what the original intent was. It had to do with African slaves.
Right?
Yeah. So context, that you listen, as a pastor, and I read the Bible, I teach from this perspective. Context determines meaning. That's how you understand the Bible. Well, how do you understand the Constitution, our amendments? Context determines meaning. So original intent, you got to realize what was that all about. And so, yeah, Congress is going to have to weigh in. Congress is going to have to address this. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves, as President Trump has put it, if you import the third world, you become the third world. And a lot of that is happening through birthright citizenship.
And let's face it, China is taking advantage of the loophole in this 14th Amendment. And at some point, they are going to bring armies of these babies who then go back to China, get conditioned under Maoist Chinese policies, bring them back to the United States, install them into the United States, and then we've got even a bigger problem on our hands. Would you agree?
Now you have the enemy within who has American citizenship and claims the rights that you and I claim as Americans, although you and I are for America. These American, citizens are not for the United States of America. So, you have a powder keg on your hands ready to explode.
Well, we're going to have to fix Congress before anything gets done, Pastor. Would you agree?
That's the unfortunate reality that our country's in.
No, absolutely. Pastor, where do you stand on impeaching these federal judges that the Democrat communists, and that's what I call them because I believe that's what they are, where they have targeted President Trump and his administration? So far, not one impeachment hearing to remove one of these judges. That this cannot continue because every day there's another federal judge. Yesterday it was a Biden judge who's trying to prevent these protected Haitians from being removed from the United States. Where do you stand on that, Pastor?
Well, it's astounding to me because, to your point, it's every single day. There's a new injunction. There's a new ruling. And you're just saying, it's funny. President Trump gets labeled a king, right? He's operating like a dictator and a king. He made a joke. I was at the White House last week, and he said, if I was really a king, I would be able to get a ballroom built on the grounds of the White House.
With private funds. With private funds.
Right. And so, think about how ridiculous this is. You have a judge blocking the building of a ballroom at the White House that is not being funded by taxpayers. It's private funding. So, the judicial system has hijacked our country. It really has. We've experienced lawfare at all different levels. And so, impeachment, absolutely, because these are politically motivated judges. These are not judges. Lady Justice is supposed to be blind to politics.
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. And so,
Pastor.
you have to address it.
You saw President Trump at the White House last week. He's obviously got a lot on his plate with the war and so forth. How did you find his spirits? How did you find it that he's holding up?
I think he's doing great. Obviously, none of us can probably truly comprehend the weight that is on his shoulders as the president, dealing with Iran, dealing with the economy. Imagine, I can't imagine what it's like to be president of the United States. But he's always upbeat. He's always positive, no matter what is coming against him or against our country, which is something, I admire about him, that his spirits are always high, regardless of circumstances.
Well, we will be praying for you heading into the June primary. And how does it work I'm not familiar with Oklahoma. How does it work in Oklahoma? Is there any type of runoff?
Yeah. So if nobody gets 50+1, you go into a runoff. And then here's the thing about Oklahoma. Whoever wins the Republican primary will win the general election. Okay. It's Oklahoma. We only send, it's a 22-point seat, Republican favored area. And so we're going to get after it. And we need all the help that we can get. And we're doing well right now.
Well, Pastor, thank you for everything that you've done with regard to protecting faith in and around the White House and protecting our president and praying for him. We're so fortunate to have you, and our prayers that you will take a seat on Capitol Hill representing the 1st District in Oklahoma are with you.
Thank
you.
you.
If there's anything further that we can do, sir, please let us know.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you. Always love coming on with you.
Thank you. Pastor Jackson Lemire, Pastor, please send your best to your wife and your family. You have such a beautiful family, and I hope everything goes well between now and June 14th.
Thank you. Be blessed.
By the way, that's Flag Day. That's President Trump's birthday, is it? That's a good omen for you, isn't it? All right, Pastor, best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
All right. My friends, you're watching Digital Interactive Friday. We are going to welcome in our next panelist. Coming up, Colonel Wensley Martin is going to be joining us in just a moment. He's standing by. I'm looking right at him on screen. Stay with us.
WGMD Marine Weather Report is brought to you by The Surfing Crab. For the best in all-you-can-eat crabs, visit The Surfing Crab on Highway 1, Lewis.
Here is the marine forecast from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center. Patchy fog possible in spots today and highs top out near 59 degrees. And on the water, south winds increase to 10 to 15 knots, higher gusts possible, seas around 4 feet. The current water temperature is 52 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide 10:48 a.m., low tide 5:40 p.m., high tide 11:21 p.m. And at Rehoboth Beach, low tide 8:41 a.m., high tide 2:40 p.m., low tide 8:38 p.m. I'm Phil Chensko.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Elizabeth MacDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks opened mixed after an inflation update that showed the impact of higher energy costs, but it could have been even worse. The Consumer Price Index was up 0.9% in March, up just 0.2 for core CPI, excluding food and energy. For the year ending in March, the CPI jumped to up 3.3%. Core CPI for the year, though, came in cooler than expected at 2.6%. Investors are monitoring developments in the Middle East. Brent crude, the global price, is in the $95 a barrel range. West Texas Intermediate, U.S. oil, at $97. Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, says business jumped 35% in its recent quarter. The stock's up more than 2%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's NobleGoldInvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday continues. It is a busy day today, and I want to welcome in our next panelist, Colonel Wesley Martin, U.S. Army retired during his combat tours. The colonel served as the Senior Anti-Terrorism Force Protection Officer for all coalition forces in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. That is 1 and 2 as Senior Operations Officer for Task Force 134 Detention Operations, and as Commander of Forward Operating Base Ashraf, working with the Iranian Mujahideen, MEK, and of course NCRI, which is how they are referred to today. Colonel, it's an honor to have you on this broadcast. And just for our audience, you were someone who earned their commission and worked their way up to your rank. And I was reading your bio, Colonel. You are just your bio is just amazing. Your service to the nation. God bless you and thank you for everything that you have done.
I appreciate it, and it's interesting. I did start out as a private, and when you mentioned earn, that's why Sergeant Major of the Army Gates and I got together and rewrote the book Earn It, tracking his life and how he went from North Carolina Hills all the way to be top soldier of the entire United States Army.
That's right.
Earn It is a big thing with us. And I'll go ahead and let you proceed.
No, please go ahead, Colonel. Please finish your thoughts.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good. So I come as a ground fighter, and also with 3 tours of duty at the Pentagon, and also finished up my tour of duty in Korea, same place where I finished it my enlisted tour. And what a success story that country is.
That is, let's hope that they can continue that, Colonel. Your analysis of Operation Epic Fury as it stands now, we've got a 2-week ceasefire. What are your thoughts, sir?
The ceasefire is not going to hold. We're dealing with the number one exporter of terrorism in the entire globe, a nation-state exporter of terrorism. And they're not going to honor anything that comes out of the ceasefire. I was at a convention in 2018 with the National Council of Resistance of Iran in Paris, along with about 50,000 other people that the Iranian regime tried to blow up. And I worked with them when I dealt with them, I should say. When I
was this a convention of doctors, wasn't it, Colonel?
Oh, no, it was a convention. It was hosted by the National Council of Resistance of Iran. We had so many prime ministers, former prime ministers there.
Okay.
Rudy Giuliani was there. I think Newt Gingrich was there. Louis Freeh, former FBI director, as well as I believe Steve Harper from Canada was there, and Struan Stevenson, Scotland, and they tried to blow us up. But fortunately, Interpol worked with intercepted it, and the French, Belgian, and German police came together, did a wonderful job, captured all the people. Belgium put them on court, convicted all of them. Iran went and took a hostage, and then demanded the leader of the operation be released, or they would hold the hostage in prison. That's the country we're dealing with.
Yes, there's no question that. But you dealt with the Iranians in your two tours in Iraq. You know what Iran is capable of because of their infiltration into Iraq during the Iraq War, right?
Very true. And when I was a senior anti-terrorism officer, people always talked about the Fallujah Triangle.
Right.
I looked more at the Iranian wedge, which went from Arkaballah to An Najaf, over to Ad Diwanir, to Al Qut, back to Al Hilla. And that wedge pointed right towards Iran, and they were constantly infiltrating. And in 2019, Pentagon came out with a report, 608 of the American killed in Iraq were by means provided by the IRGC, and we weren't dealing with just improvised explosive devices. Iran was sending some very sophisticated explosive devices to kill American soldiers and Marines.
And we see the commercials all the time, Tunnel to Towers and other organizations that are to help wounded vets that came home from Iraq, Colonel. And I turn to my wife all the time and I say, you know, these wounded vets were wounded by Iran. That they are responsible for them coming home without legs and arms, correct?
That is very correct, because Iran was constantly feeding the militias. And they at times they would even work with Al-Qaeda, even though one Sunni, one Shia, to get Al-Qaeda to do some of their bidding. And I know that for a fact because one of my informants was inside Al-Qaeda. He was just a ground soldier, but he he wanted out, but he knew if he tried to get out, he'd get killed. So he was keeping me well informed on what was going on, and it always pointed back to the Islamic regime.
Colonel Wesley Martin is joining us, U.S. Army retired. Colonel, we have an interactive program here where we have listeners who volunteer as producers, and they go on to a site that we call Dial, and they monitor the program, and they upload questions for our panelists. And I have some questions for you. I'd like to get to those now. Would that be okay?
It would be. I do have another interview at 10:50 your time.
No problem. We will we'll finish up in just a couple of moments, if that's okay with you, sir.
That's fine.
All right. Our producer Wolf asks you, can Iran survive as a unitary state, multi-ethnic state, after eventual regime change? Well, we're not sure the regime change is going to happen, but there are a number of ethnic regions in Iran. What say you, Colonel?
You're correct. You have the Baluch in the southeast. You have the Arabs in the southwest. You have the Kurds in the northeast, the Azeris in the north central. But also you have the Persians, 55% of the population. And the estimates I'm getting, over 80% of the people want regime change. And look at the January demonstrations.
Right.
The regime ended up coming in with machine guns, and I've seen their battle plan for dealing with protests. In phase 4, when the protests are getting way out of control, bring in the machine guns and mow them down. And by the regime's own estimate, they claim 36,000 was killed. Amnesty International is saying 80,000. 80,000 people eliminated. And there is an opportunity for President Trump, if he reaches out to the resistance operations, especially the National Council of Resistance of Iran. If he wants help getting set up, I'll do it for him. Newt Gingrich is part of the team. He can reach out as well. And we can go ahead and help and get the resistance armed and ready. You don't want to put soldiers or Marines on the ground in Iran because of the drone problem. It's going to be like the Drang Valley from We Were Soldiers with General Hal Moore, except you're going to have those drones coming in. Let the country collapse from within. The infrastructure has been hit severely. Now let the Iranian people arm them, help them, work with these groups, let them overthrow the country.
How do you see the drone situation with Iran? Because 2 days ago, the UAE was attacked with Iranian drones. They still have that capability available, don't they, Colonel?
They do. We may have hit all the production sites, which I don't think we got all of them, but they got thousands of drones pre-positioned. And what the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is doing now is they're operating off existing plans. They're great at developing plans, terrible at securing them, but great at developing. So when President Trump said we cut off the head of the snake, in a Middle East mindset, it's not the head of the snake, it's the body of a mother spider. You crush the mother spider, and all the little babies jump off her back and go run in different directions. And that's what we're taking on right now. That's why we're still seeing a very functional IRGC.
What is the probability of regime change through armed popular resistance? Well, we know we gave the Kurds weapons to give the people back in December, and the Kurds kept the weapons, Colonel, right?
They did, but the Kurds will put them to use. The Kurds, too, also needs to be understand. They not only have Kurdistan, Iran, but also Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, because those straight-line borders after World War II formed by United Kingdom and France didn't work, and they cut up regions. The Kurds are just one. Give them to the Baluch. Give them to the Persians. Work with the different organizations, not just the Kurds.
Colonel, I want to thank you so much. We would love to have you back on the broadcast. Colonel Wesley Martin, U.S. Army retired. You are a wealth of information, Colonel. And again, I thank you so much for your patience in coming on the broadcast this morning. You would welcome back, sir, any time on our broadcast here, Your News Talk America. Thank you for your service.
I'll be back. Thank you.
God bless you, sir. We'll be back in just a moment on Your News Talk America. Please stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Daytime highs approaching 69 with fog and spots early today under mainly clear skies. Winds out of the south, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mainly clear again tonight. Lows around 50. High of 69 tomorrow. Lots of sunshine. Lots of sunshine Sunday with a high of 67. 79 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Right now, it's 46 degrees.
Celebrating over 40 years. 92.7 and 98.5. The Talk of Delmarva. Mike Bradley mornings on WGMD.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter. Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Don't miss the Spring Home Expo at Cape Henlopen High in Lewis, Saturday and Sunday, April 11th and 12th. Admission is free and 150 exhibitors will present their products and services. Artisans too. Saturday 9 to 4 and Sunday 10 to 3. There's ample free parking at Cape Henlopen High and free gifts and prizes for many of the exhibitors. For complete information regarding homes and a full range of home products and services, don't miss the free Spring Home Expo Saturday and Sunday, April 11th and 12th at Cape Henlopen High.
There's a Hello, this is Evangelist Rick Brightenblaw, inviting you to listen to the Gospel Defender Ministries, Sunday morning at 8:30 on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD.
the only live show on the peninsula from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Recapping a busy weekend of news. Sunday nights with Bill Cunningham here on 92.7 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva. News on the hour on WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday continues from DS2, your anchorman, sitting behind the golden microphone. And my friends, we have a scheduled segment with respect to JFK assassination. And unfortunately, there was a technical issue, and we're still hopeful of getting the author, or co-author of the book Shallow Graves, on with us today. Deep cover Shallow Graves, excuse me. And the question that we have is: was a CIA team dispatched to Dallas to abort the assassination of JFK in 1963? And again, my apologies that the panelist isn't here, but there was a technical glitch, and I sent another link for them to log on to, and hopefully I'll get word from the control room momentarily that they have signed on. Just to let you know that the CIA officer, ex-CIA officer and author, is 88 years young. So hopefully he will join us in just a few minutes, and we'll be able to have him on the broadcast here on Your News Talk America. Let me just take this opportunity to thank those in the master control, and that is Julia Snerdley. Thank you, Snerdley. Wave hello to everybody. She's not on camera right now. Maybe she could pop on and wave hello. But Snerdley, thank you for all your work today, and thank you to Mark, who is handling Dial today. Dial is very active. And thanks to Walt, who's in Studio A, handling the radio aspect of the broadcast. Also coming up later today, I want to, let me give you just a peek here. What's going on with respect to the media, and there are so many different platforms, as you know, of places where we get the news. It's not just we don't turn to the big three, CBS, NBC, ABC anymore, but we also get our news from our phones, from our computers. We get news flashes from Google, from Apple. Should you pay attention to those news items? Well, the Media Research Center has done some studies, my friends, and you might want to just ignore those news items when they are sent to your phones because, well, let's put it this way, they're not very accurate and they tend to lean to the left. They're not very fair. Well, they're not fairly balanced at all. We're going to welcome in Michael Morris, the director of the Media Research Center's Free Speech America department. He's going to be joining us to tell us that Google News is shaping public opinion on the Iran war. Now, remember, Google promised no more propaganda. Everything was going to be straight down the line, right down the middle. Well, that's not true. And with respect to Apple, they're still continuing to paint the news as far left as possible. Coming up also in the next hour, we have the author of a biography on the new Pope, Pope Leo. And he wrote a story about the stark contrast. This was an opinion piece of his that has nothing to do with his book. An opinion piece on the stark contrast between Pope Leo's Easter message and President Trump's Easter message. Well, there was a there was a big difference. President Trump's message has some four-letter words in it that, well, let's put it this way, was unlike any other Easter message before. So we'll talk about that with our next panelist, who is going to be joining us, Dr. Paul Kengor, Senior Director and Chief Academic Fellow for the Institute of Faith and Freedom. He's also a professor of political science at Grove City College. And then we're going to wrap up the broadcast today with Countdown to 250, celebrating 250 years of American independence with Dr. Murray Sabrin of the Mises Institute. We're getting, of course, each day closer to celebrating the 250th anniversary birthday of America, and Dr. Murray Sabrin is going to be joining us as well. All right, well, we have apparently cleared up the technical issue, and I want to welcome in to Your News Talk America Robert Tosh Plumley, the co-author of Deep Cover, Shallow Graves. Robert, Tosh, can I call you Tosh?
Yeah, that's fine. I've been called a lot of things.
Well, Tosh, welcome to Your News Talk America.
Well, thanks for having us.
Was there a CIA team sent to Dallas to abort the assassination of JFK in 1963, sir?
Well, actually, it was a Pentagon team, and the CIA acted as logistical support for that team that was dispatched out of the Pentagon. They had received prior information that a hit was going to be made on Kennedy from a source of a cryptologist named Private Eugene B. Dinkin over in France, and he notified through proper channels and ended up getting the information to the Pentagon through their military intelligence unit. And as a result of that, the Pentagon contacted CIA. CIA acted as logistical support for our team. I was a pilot that flew that team into Dallas.
Now, the CIA and JFK, they weren't exactly close allies. JFK had no use for the CIA after the failed Bay of Pigs invasion in Cuba, right?
Well, right, and there was friction for everybody. FBI didn't like the CIA, CIA didn't like the FBI, FBI didn't like, I mean, it was a real circle jerk in those years. So.
Well, yes, that's understood that Robert F. Kennedy, who was Attorney General at that time, wasn't a great lover of J. Edgar Hoover, who was running the FBI. Hoover didn't like the Kennedys, so it was rather interesting. Now, you were in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963, correct?
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
So tell us from your vantage point what you think happened. You heard those shots. You were there to thwart the assassination attempt, but there were multiple shots that rang out when you were in Dealey Plaza.
Okay, well, I'm going to clear up a few things. Number one, I was not operational on that team. I was a co-pilot that actually flew that team from Miami, Florida into Dallas. So my job was basically a co-pilot on that flight going into Dallas. A friend of mine by the name of Sergio, who was Cuban, who has family was from Havana, years before when I was running running guns and into Fidel Castro, that's when I met Sergio. Sergio became a good friend.
Well, can I just ask you which airport you flew into that day in Dallas?
Well, we flew in first. We were supposed to fly into Redbird Airport, but then we had a weather problem, so we went delayed for a few minutes into Garland Airport. And then after weather cleared, we hopped over to Redbird. Now, my position at that point in time, so I could clear this up, over the years, there's been a lot of stuff said, so I'll try to speed it up as fast as I can.
Please.
So I was just going to hang out at the safe house in Oak Cliff that was across the highway from Redbird. Sergio came up to me and he says, "You want to go see the president?" I said, "Sure." So I went with them down to Dealey Plaza, and Sergio was operational. His job was with the team to go in to try to find triangulation to abort or stop the team. So that was his so I was a tag along. So because I was just a co-pilot. So we got to the plaza. I walked with Sergio around the parking lot, the south parking lot. We didn't think anything was going to happen. There'd been hundreds of rumors that Kennedy was supposed to be hit. There was all kinds of dissension going on. So we just basically casually walked the plaza, came around. So then when we got over to the South Knoll, walking through that area, we went over by a shady area of a tree, and that's when the shots came out. And then what I saw was directly across from where we were standing by the light poles in line, I saw the shots over our shoulder. If you've been in a situation like that, and I'm sure some of the veterans are watching this know what I'm talking about, you can feel the shot. You can feel it. It's sort of in your bones, boom, like that. So that went over us, and that had to come from the South Knoll.
And that was in the opposite direction of the Texas School Book Depository, right?
Right. It was on the south side of the triple underpass, and we were on the south side, and it came over our left shoulder directly in line, and then I saw the head, Kennedy's head explode. So there was 3 shots that I remember specifically, like a bam, 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 like that. And that's what I saw. And then Sergio said, we got to get the hell out of here. So there was a net set up. There was another team on the other side, which we were supposed to be communicating with, but we couldn't communicate with them because the radios were not working right. Someone had switched the crystals on those radios, so Sergio couldn't communicate with the other side. And then one of the guys that was sitting next to what is basically over the years became known as the Umbrella Man, Gator was sitting next to him, and Gator kept doing this, to Sergio, can't communicate like this.
Well, today, people, unless you knew the way radios worked back then, crystals determined what frequency that you were going to transmit on. So if you changed the crystal, you were changing the frequency that radio was going to transmit on, correct?
That's right. So therefore, because of that change up, wherever it happened, for whatever reasons, I wouldn't know, but it could have been an honest mistake or wrong radios or whatever, but they could not communicate. So
now, quickly, if I can ask you just a couple of quick questions, Tosh, if I may. By the way, one of our listener producers, Xnuke, said he just ordered your book on Amazon, so you're getting some movement on your book. That's good. Jimmy Rosselli was on your plane. Jimmy Rosselli, the mobster Jimmy Rosselli, and we've all heard of the mob's part in taking out. Am I wrong here?
No, you're right. Okay, Johnny Rosselli and I were good friends. I'd flown
Johnny Rosselli. I said Jimmy Rosselli. Yeah. Johnny Rosselli. Excuse me.
Rosselli and I were good friends. I'd flown him all over the place. We went to Grace Ranch together in Tucson. There's a story behind there. I mean, we don't have a lot of time to go into these kind of stories, but I met Johnny Rosselli at the Rodney Plaza on Miami Beach, also with Sam Giancana at that time, in the 50s. So organized crime was part of working with. What this was about at that point in time was gun running to a rebel, and we called him Castrol in those days. But we were running guns stolen from National Guard armories in the United States, shipped through Florida to Castro, the M26-7 revolution. So that's where the mob came in. And that's where, I don't like to call it the mob, it's the mafia, and organized crime and associations with CIA. So,
well, Tosh, we're really getting very low on time.
I know.
How come you did not bring this information out? It's been 63 years.
Oh,
the other congressional investigation in 1976. Why now, if I may ask?
Why? Well, not why now. This story was told to the FBI on April 5th, 1964, with a map drawn of where Sergio and I was standing. We've had a long running battle. I've testified to 3 committees telling the story that I'm telling this camera right now. They refused to act on it. Senator Gary Hart sent an investigation deal when he was on the committee. They refused to act upon it. The FBI has intervened, done a character assassination on me, discrediting me, so on like that. So this is not a story that just popped out after 6 years.
So would you be willing to come back on and talk more about this, Tosh, at some point?
Want, yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. The book, Deep Cover, Shallow Graves, covers a lot of the detail of what you're asking, what you're talking about. This is a very simple deal, but it's become very complicated over the years, and I know your time is out, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Tosh, but I do appreciate it. And you know what? We'll get you back. We'll talk more about it because this is fascinating stuff. It really is.
All right. Well, okay. Anytime you're ready, we're there to help you. Okay?
God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
All right. You're watching Your News Talk America back at DS2 on the other side of news. Stay with us.
WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford. The talk of Delmarva, WGMD.
He's leading the way. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And before Vice President Vance took off for Pakistan to head up the negotiations with Iran tomorrow, he told reporters,
as the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive.
Iran has suggested that Israel's continued attacks targeting Hezbollah militants in Lebanon could derail the negotiations. And Fox's Matt Finn reports from Dubai.
The UAE says Iran launched more than 2,500 drone and missile attacks at this country and that Iran should pay for the damage. And also Iran cannot remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz. But it appears right now that even though about a dozen vessels have crossed the strait since Tuesday's ceasefire, there is not a free open flow on the strait. A senior Israeli official tells Fox News this morning that Iran is demanding fees to pass through the strait.
Oil prices are up slightly, and despite Wednesday's big plunge, still about 50% higher than before the Iran conflict started, spiking up gas prices, leading to higher overall inflation. The Consumer Price Index rose 0.9% last month, though the core rate, taking out food and energy, rose less than expected, just 0.2. And White House Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett tells Fox Business,
once the energy prices start to come down, don't forget that'll put downward pressure on inflation. And with starting with core at 0.2, I think that the outlook for the Fed having the room to cut rates is going to be very solid.
The Federal Reserve has paused cutting interest rates so far this year. Now a different financial scrutiny.
White House aides were warned in a March email not to place bets on prediction markets. A White House spokesman says all federal employees are subject to government ethics guidelines that prohibit the use of non-public information for financial benefit.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House.
Democratic lawmakers have voiced concern over some high-winning bets placed about the war in Iran and oil trading.
The Artemis 2 astronauts get a wake-up call this morning. 9 hours from now, they'll return home. America's listening to Fox News.
I didn't switch to Pure Talk just because I wanted to save 50% off the same 5G service I'd been paying twice as much for. I switched because I like the idea of being in business with a wireless company that supports our veterans in a meaningful way. Pure Talk also creates American jobs every day by keeping their entire operation in this country. I appreciate that. If you feel the same, dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is Medi-Share. Maybe you've heard joining Medi-Share can save families up to $500 a month, and obviously that's a big deal, but they like it too, especially being part of something that reflects their values instead of working against them. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. Find out more. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34.
Delmarva's home for local news, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva.
The news is brought to you by Wings to Go Long Neck. Open every day at 11 a.m. Order on DoorDash or call 302-947-9444.
The Delaware DMV is issuing a don't click warning after a new wave of text message scams hit the first state. Officials say the scammers are sending fraudulent texts claiming you have unpaid traffic violations. The messages include a link to pay a fine to avoid penalties, but the DMV and Easy Pass Delaware warn they never request payments by text. If you get a message like that, don't click, report it, and keep a close eye on your bank account. Voters in Ocean View heading to the ballot box Saturday to decide the town's future leadership. It's a two-way race for mayor between Thomas Malley and Randy Robust. Meanwhile, for the District 1 council seat, incumbent John Blanchard faces a challenge from Richard Dimmock. If you're heading out to vote, the Town Community Center on West Avenue will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And don't forget to bring your ID if you want to vote in that election in Ocean View tomorrow. State lawmakers are pushing a new three-bill package they say will safeguard democracy in Delaware. One aims to modernize election laws by clarifying residency rules and updating ballot language. A second would increase oversight on campaign finance, require more training for treasurers, and extend record-keeping to 5 years. The third bill under consideration moves campaign finance reporting from annually to quarterly. All three bills are scheduled for hearings in legislative committees. Getting a parking spot in downtown Milton could get easier soon. The Milton Town Council has awarded a $149,000 contract to build a brand new parking lot at the corner of Magnolia and Union Streets. They hope to have it done by Memorial Day.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Mostly sunny this afternoon, 60 at the beach, 70 inland. Tonight, mostly cloudy, the low 49. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and breezy, the high 63 at the beach to 70 inland. And Sunday, partly sunny, breezy in the afternoon, 58 at the beach to 67 inland. More on these and other stories, you can visit talkofdelmarva.com. I'm Jerry Lademan in the Talk of Delmarva newsroom.
Craving wings? Head to Wings to Go Long Neck, now under new ownership, where flavor meets freshness. Choose from 29 sauces and dry rubs. Enjoy traditional or boneless wings, always cooked to order. Try cheesesteaks and their popular soft shell crabs. Conveniently located at 25938 Plaza Drive in Millsboro. Open daily at 11 a.m. Call 302-947-9444 or order on DoorDash. Wings to Go Long Neck, simply great wings since 1985.
Time to announce our Friday morning winners in the virtual Easter egg hunt. Congratulations to Milford Chamber of Commerce, Sydney Bree, Goober Support, Jeannie Dukes, Talk of Delmarva, Brianna Holston. We'll be in touch with all of our winners soon with details on how to claim your prizes. Congratulations again, and happy Easter from all of us at the Talk of Delmarva and Techno Goober.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday continues. If you'd like to watch the broadcast, the cameras, the lights, they're on right here in DS2. RealNewsTalk.com. You can watch the broadcast. You can watch it on Facebook Live. Boy, that was a very interesting chat with our last guest, the co-author of the book about JFK's assassination. Was there CIA team? Well, he says it was a joint CIA Pentagon team sent to Dealey Plaza to save the life and prevent the assassination of JFK. Well, we'll have to find out about that. Robert Tosh Plumley. Now, we're going to have him back, and our producer Wolf made a great suggestion to get Tyler Nixon back on the next time that he's on. Tyler Nixon is kind of like our in-house JFK assassination expert. I think it's a great idea. We're going to do that. My friends, as I said earlier, we get our news from so many different sources. And we have iPhones, we have other devices, and, you know, news headlines pop up. And you've got to understand of where these news sources are coming from, and don't fall prey to what you're being told or what you think is accurate, because it may not be accurate. Case in point, Google News shaping public opinion on the Iran war. And I want to welcome in Michael Morris. Michael's returning. He's been a panelist with us before. I think it's his first time on Digital Interactive Friday, the director of the Media Research Center's Free Speech America. Imagine that, Free Speech in America. Michael, how are you, sir?
Doing well. Thank you for having me back on the show.
You know, I thought that Google and Apple and the rest of them had promised President Trump that they were going to be straight down the middle. They weren't going to be doing any more of this promoting the leftist propaganda, but somewhere along the line, they're still doing it, aren't they?
Yeah, look, you know, a lot of the CEOs and some of the executives showed up at the inauguration for Trump this time around, and some of them even gave him some money. So, yeah, you would think, oh yeah, they're on Team Trump now. But no, the Media Research Center watches the news, reads the news, and analyzes it, so you don't have to. And Google News, as you mentioned, don't trust it. We're seeing time and time again, Google News is overwhelmingly promoting the left and suppressing the right.
And they always have. Google News has never been balanced. Ever, ever, ever. Google News has always been a left-wing propaganda outlet, in my estimation. That's just, this humble correspondent has always felt that way. What do you say?
Yeah, look, absolutely right. MRC's been on this for quite some time. We were looking at actually Google's search all the way back in 2022, leading up to the midterms, and saw massive amounts of bias where they were burying the campaign websites of Republicans while not burying the campaign websites of their Democratic counterparts on the other side of the
Imagine
aisle. Yeah, no shock here. But you mentioned the most recent special report that we've done on Google News here, and absolutely right. Google News is suppressing right-leaning articles from right-leaning outlets, and they're bolstering articles from left-leaning outlets. In fact, out of 239 total stories on the Iran conflict, 183 to 6.
Right, 183 to 6. That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah, incredible, absolutely incredible. And the bias doesn't end there. If you zoom out and you look at the totals, right, 71% of all the information that was pumped out, and we're looking at the morning editions on Google News, the top 20. All right, so that's what we focus on. If you zoom out, 71% of all the stories that are being offered by Google News during the month of March came from left-leaning outlets.
I'm going to ask this question, but maybe it's a rhetorical question, maybe it isn't. What does Google have to lose by just fairly reporting conservative media outlets? What do they have to lose unless they're getting their orders from the DNC?
Well, look, they wouldn't be first, and what I mean by that is they wouldn't be the worst. So if Google actually provided balance, they wouldn't be the worst. Notice Google actually removed its do no evil moniker in recent years. That used to be a slogan of theirs, and now they don't have that. And so that tells you everything that you need to know.
Yeah. No, they don't care. And there's a link, by the way, my friends, to this article from MRC's Free Speech America, and 183 to 6. Do you think that's fair? Now, I guarantee you, if you have an iPhone or you have if you have a device or you looked at one of those stories, propaganda stories, or those pieces of propaganda that was sent your way to try to sway your feelings about the war in Iran, I guarantee it, you were part of that. And again, when you get these things, and you can have them turned off, but it's not easy to turn them off, right, Michael?
Yeah, look, that's an excellent point. All of these, what the MRC calls Big Four news apps, Apple News, Google News, Microsoft's MSN, and Yahoo News are the Big Four. 3 of them, Apple, Google, and MSN, come preloaded on devices. And the reason that's important is because a recent study shows, and this is from Pew Research Center, that 86% of people at least sometimes get their news and information from a digital device. Digital devices being phones, laptops, iPads, you name it. And preloaded on every Android is Google News. Preloaded on every iPhone is Apple News. Preloaded on every laptop, every desktop, if you're using a Windows computer, is MSN.
MSN, right.
And so, yeah, you are, whether you like it or not, you are being passively fed leftist drivel. The American people overwhelmingly reject the elitist media narrative, and we know that's true because polls have shown that the American people just don't trust the elitist media any longer, and so they've been fleeing to other sources. And where they've been going? They've been going to social media. They've been going to places like X. They've been going to, Facebook, Instagram, some of the TikTok, some of these others, and they've been going to apps on their phones. And while the conservative ecosystem has been largely unfazed by this, thankfully, thoughtful Americans know to go directly to the source. The independents and the left are oftentimes going to these big tech giants that are feeding them the same leftist narrative that the American people are trying to run away from. And it may be subliminal because they don't know, perhaps, that they're being shoved down their throats. The Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC, the same nonsense they tried to flee from.
But and again, they get this propaganda, they accept it as fact. They do not follow it up with any fact checks. And my wife, who has a Samsung phone, she'll say to me, "Did you see such and such?" And I know it's total propaganda BS. Did you check that out before you? Before you accepted that as being fact? Oh, no. I suspect. Check it out, honey, and then let me know. Now, that's not all. Let's look at Apple News. Apple News, as reported by Heather, was it Heather Moon? No,
Heather
it wasn't.
Moon,
Yes,
yeah.
Heather Moon reported, right? Apple News was the most radical of big four news apps this past month in March, right?
Yeah, and look, we look at all of the big four, and we try to do it each month to get a sense of where they're at. And look, repetition is important, and not just for our sakes.
Well, with brainwashing, yes, repetition is very important, Michael.
Absolutely, but also to show over time precisely where these big four news apps are. It's like the scientific method. You want to keep looking at the same data over and over again and make sure, and over time you'll have a trend. And the trend we're seeing is that Apple has actually been the worst so far this year in 2026, and it's showing overwhelmingly leftist outlets. It's kind of like in tiers almost, and what I mean by that is levels, like in your garden. If you have a tiered garden, Apple is at the top of that tier. And when it comes to the leftist outlets that it links to, it's somewhere around 85%. All right. Google News is just right behind it. It's hovering right around 77% or so, 70, 75, somewhere in there. Then you have MSN. It's around 65, and then you have Yahoo News, and it's around 55. But what's interesting about that is they all kind of have their own little silos in how they are pushing out this propaganda from the left.
How so, Michael?
Yeah, so Apple actually uses curation from editors, and they brag about it, actually. They say, oh, yeah, in the top stories, the editors over here at Apple are actually giving you the news and information that they want you to see. It's curated by our editors over here at Apple News. So I don't know how that's better when they're throwing tons and tons of leftist information at the American people, but Apple seems to think that that's the way to go. Google News hides behind its algorithm, okay? It says, well, look, we don't have human curation over here at Google. It's just the algorithm that's making all of this information pop up. Well, guess what, Google? Somebody on Google's staff wrote that algorithm. So
That's right.
Google's
and
thumb
wrote
is
it
still,
to lean right.
Yeah.
And wrote it to lean left. Right.
Yeah. Google's thumb is still on the scale. Okay.
But you know what irritates me more? That our children are looking at these news headlines. Our kids, our teenagers, when they pop up too, because they're seeing them, and they're being fed this leftist propaganda as well, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And MSN is it's a little bit of a mix. There's some editorial there. There's also some algorithm there, and a lot of times what you get is the page 6 stuff with MSN, but it's still overwhelmingly leftist garbage. And then Yahoo we thought might hold the crown for being the most radical there for a while because of the absolute radical filth that they're shoving down the American throats.
I see anything from Yahoo and I disregard it. If I'm quoting it, I just say, well, this is from Yahoo News, and if you believe it, you believe it, but it's garbage.
Yeah, and it has the biggest dichotomy when it comes to sources that it links to in the mornings in the top 20.
Who, Al Jazeera?
Actually, no. Something that might be worse, I mean, arguably, it's Salon and the New Republic. So, you're getting all sorts of tabloid trash.
Yeah, you're really getting into the weeds, Michael.
That's
the view of print media, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And so that's the sort of nonsense. So I guess if going back to MSN, if you had to put it one way, MSN, the only writhing worm in a bowl of dead maggots. So there you have it.
Well, I guess the advice that you and I both have for those watching today is be careful where you get your news, right?
Absolutely right. Look, and I mentioned this earlier. The conservative ecosystem is still doing pretty well, despite the fact that they're getting short shrift from these tech giants. Because the American conservative knows to go directly to the source. But that has not been the case we've seen with independents and the left. And we know this from a recent YouGov poll on the Iran war. And Republicans overwhelmingly support the Iran war, according to YouGov. Independents by about 57% are opposed, and Democrats, of course, 80+% opposed. And we think that might have something to do with the fact that a lot of Americans are getting their news from digital devices and the big four news apps.
Well, Michael, if you consider that these leftist news outlets, all of them, are telling people that America has lost the war in Iran, has been losing the war in Iran, we're embarrassed. Trump is a war criminal. He's going to be put on trial in The Hague. All those kinds of things. It's no wonder.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right.
Michael Morris, director of the Media Research Center's Free Speech America. My friends, the Media Research Center, as I tell you frequently, is on the front lines. You see how dangerous this Marxist state media, that I call it, is. Please go on to their website, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can give to help them. They need the money to continue to battle against an unfair media that is dangerous to the Republic of the United States of America. Michael Morris, thank you. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right. My friends, we're going to be talking about the Pope and the President coming up next. Stay tuned.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 69. South winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 50 tonight. Mainly clear skies. Mainly sunny tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 69. Daytime highs approaching 67 Sunday under mainly sunny skies. 79 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Currently, it's 54 degrees.
The best mix of news, talk, and sports. 92.7 and 98.5. The Talk of Delmarva.
This 11 a.m. Wellness Minute is locally brought to you by PAM Health Rehabilitation Hospitals. Did you know that April is Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month? According to the Amputee Coalition, 185 people in the U.S. experience limb loss each year. But losing a limb doesn't have to be the end of the journey. It's also the start of a new one. PAM Health Rehabilitation Hospitals provide the strength, skills, and support that help their patients move forward. This Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month lets honor the resilience of those who adapt and thrive. Because with PAM Acute Rehabilitation, a new beginning is always within reach. For more information on their amputee program or support groups, please visit online today at pamhealth.com or call PAM Health Rehabilitation Hospital at 302-213-1880.
This year, trust experienced has stood the test of time. Complete Tree Care has been proudly serving Sussex County for over 25 years. From expert pruning to storm cleanup and tree removal, we've been keeping properties safe and beautiful for decades. Start the new year with a company you can count on. Complete Tree Care, 25 years of trusted local service.
Call today, 302-947-2273, or request an estimate at CompleteTreeCare.com.
Auto repair services tailored for the weather are more effective, like buying a coat for winter or rain boots for spring. Seasonal maintenance helps prepare your vehicle for ever-changing seasons, helping to extend its life. Call Lewis Meineke for a maintenance appointment today, 302-827-2054.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
We continue Digital Interactive Friday live from DS2. I'm your anchorman, Jake Smith. And my friends, I guess you could say that there is a significant contrast between the styles of Pope Leo and President Trump. And to highlight those contrasts is our next panelist, Dr. Paul Kengor. He's the Senior Director and Chief Academic Fellow for the Institute for Faith and Freedom. Dr. Kengor is also Professor of Political Science at Grove City College. Professor, thank you for joining us today. I noticed that you were looking at your phone during Mass, and that's not very good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, and especially on Easter Sunday, by the way.
Oh,
right?
no.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there and I had it in my pocket, and
your phone was blowing up.
Yeah, my phone's like blowing up, and I thought, and for one thing, so I mean, I've got a bunch of kids, and so one of them wasn't there yet, and I thought, maybe something happened to him, right? I mean, maybe it was in an accident or something. So I thought I better check this, and I pulled the phone out. My son's okay, right? But I'm like,
thank God for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know if the president is okay, right? Look at this statement from President Trump, and my wife's like, what are you doing, looking at your phone? Right? and I said, check this out. She said, is that real? I said, I don't know, right? But I mean, it was President Trump posted it on Truth Social at 8:03 a.m. on Easter Sunday morning, and it was just this. Open the effing straight, you B words, you are going to go to hell. Praise be to Allah, Donald J. Trump. And I thought, I mean, come on, what is this, right? And at that point, she said, "Turn it off." And I said, "All right, I'll turn it off." And but I went right.
You
back
listened to your wife the way I listened to mine, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. You want peace? That's
no, that is true. Yeah. Dr. Kangor, you wrote an opinion piece on this, which is in Crisis Magazine, and I put a link on my show notes for today, my friends. If you go on to Dial, you can actually access Dr. Kangor's piece. And it is the stark difference between the Pope and the American president. The Pope starts off his Easter message with, "Easter is the victory over life and death, of light over darkness, of love over hatred." And then, of course, the president went, "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one," screamed Trump on his Truth Social account. "There will be nothing like it," he raged at the Iranians. "Open the blanking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell, just watch." And that was the president's address on Easter morning, of which you had a problem with, right?
And then weirdly said, "Praise be to Allah," which I guess was, I mean, just sarcasm. Or maybe, I mean, I'm not totally sure. It could have also been maybe some sort of solidarity with the people of Iran at that point, right? Because he said before.
Well, that's what I've heard, that there was some sort of message to the people of Iran. And there are Christians living in Iran right now too. So who the heck knows? I have no idea. But from your vantage point, what would you have preferred that President Trump do? He's a war president. You know that he's dealing with Iran. Everything about it is getting the upper hand in negotiations and leverage. What would you have rather the president done, or saved it for a different day, perhaps?
I mean, I know it sounds like I'm sounding like a wimp, right? And I've gotten a lot of emails from my conservative friends saying, "Come on, don't be such a pansy," right? Trump has his war paint on, right? And I said, well, yeah, but I mean, Ike never talked about this like this. I mean, there's something to be said for language, rhetoric, methods, right? I mean, and in fact, interesting thing, I quickly went to the Fox News post on what Trump had said, and I got to tell you, almost every single reader comment was against him, and I thought he just lost a huge amount of his base of support for what he's doing, simply because of saying what he said in the way that he said it on Easter Sunday morning, right? And then 2 days later, he issued the statement about we're going to wipe out an entire civilization or something like that. And that too, I mean, yeah, that's just really, really shocking stuff.
So that crossed the line with you. That's what you're saying.
It did, yeah.
Okay.
And you don't have to go there. Now I understand too. I've written about this many times. I mean, for Trump does this, right? And he even wrote about this in Art of the Deal, a long time ago, right? I use wild rhetoric. I go to the extreme, right? And then I'm willing to settle for something much less. And frankly, I kind of figured that when the deadline came around Tuesday night at 8:00, he wasn't going to blow up the power plants. He was probably going to say, "Hey, we have a deal." And we did. And by the way, the next day, the Iranians broke it. So I wonder if we really had a deal or not. So kind of like the rhetoric that he used with North Korea, He doesn't usually go that far, thankfully, because I don't want to see us quite literally go nuclear in Iran. I mean, we want to prevent them from getting nuclear weapons. We don't want to, in the process, bomb their nuclear power plants, right, in order to stop them from going nuclear. So you just wish that there was, again, but this is the way Trump is, right? You wish there was some more tact.
Why wasn't there as much as outrage two years ago when the Biden White House had made Easter Sunday Trans Day or whatever they did? Remember that? How come there wasn't as much as an outrage then, Doctor?
Well, there was from me. In fact, I was even more upset about that than I was about what Trump said. And I think a lot of Trump's conservative supporters, right, were even more upset about that. And Biden was just vile, right? I mean, just, utter immorality and completely crazy. And in fact, I say this.
Yes, but he still received communion. He still continued to receive communion.
Right. That's exactly right. I say this as a Catholic who saw Trump's thing at Mass and to watch Biden as a Catholic do the things that he was doing. And what was even more infuriating about Biden is at one point in Biden's life, he was considered fairly moderate. He wasn't horrible on the abortion issue. I mean, he was pro-choice, but he had some restrictions, and he wasn't doing all the wild LGB stuff. You couldn't imagine him one day becoming president and illuminating the White House in the colors of the rainbow flag, right? Yep. So Biden was just obscene. And by the way, let me add this in Trump's defense.
Please.
Yeah, what Trump is doing in Iran and with Venezuela and everywhere else is cleaning up Biden's messes.
No, it's true.
Right? And
that's true.
There's no question about that. And for those the Trump first term was no use of military force at all, right? It was Abraham Accords. Russians weren't in Ukraine.
Well, he did take out Soleimani.
Yeah.
He took out ISIS in Syria.
Right.
Those were the two primary uses of military force.
Right. But no, sort of large scale military operation.
No.
Right? And so people are like, I don't get what's the difference between the first term and now this term. Well, Trump and his advisors would say the difference was 4 years of Joe Biden. So now they have a mess to clean up in places like Iran, which they do indeed. But at the same time, when I tell this to Trump supporters, your guy would do a lot better in gaining public support and all sorts of things and look, we've been saying this about Trump since 2015, right? If he was just smarter about how he went about saying things. You could even make really staunch, hardline threats without issuing an 8:03 a.m. Easter Sunday morning filled with F-bombs and the word like bastards and praise be to Allah and,
No, listen, your criticism is well taken as a traditional Roman Catholic myself. Let me get to this. You've written a biography on the new Pope.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So many of us traditional Roman Catholics who were basically kicked out of the church by Pope Francis because we prefer tradition. We attend the Tridentine Mass. We were hoping that Pope Leo would restore access to tradition. We've lost all hope in Leo. What do you think?
No, I think what we've heard so far from Leo on the TLM and everything is going to be just fine. In fact, not to do a shameless plug, but when I hold up the cover of my book, look how he stepped out onto the loggia.
No, he wears traditional vestments.
Right.
One day he wears traditional vestments, and the other days I'm looking for him to play a guitar at an Novus Ordo mass.
Yeah. No, he's definitely called off the war on traditionalists that Francis engaged in. He knows Latin. He's not against traditionalists. It'll be a very different thing for traditionalists under Leo.
Well, he needs to make peace with traditional Catholics.
Yeah,
because a lot of these young people that are returning to Catholicism, Dr. Kangor, are returning or prefer traditional Roman Catholicism and all the mysticism surrounding it.
I think one of the reasons that they're returning right now, I think it's less a Leo effect than a post-Francis effect. I know a lot of people. Yeah, I know a lot of people who wanted to come into the church since 2013, but didn't because of Francis. I think they'll come in now.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
it'll come in now under Leo.
Well, congratulations with your book. Maybe at some point we can have you back on and talk more about your book on Pope Leo, because I didn't know that till I started researching you, but I appreciate it. Dr. Paul Kengor, Senior Director and Chief Academic Fellow for the Institute of Faith and Freedom, Professor of Political Science at Grove City College. And on Easter Sunday, my friends, please keep your language, your bad language, to a minimum, right?
Amen. All right.
Thanks, Doctor. We appreciate you coming on.
All right. Take care. God bless.
All right. My friends, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to celebrate. Countdown to 250 coming up next.
Here is the marine forecast from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center. Patchy fog possible in spots today, and highs top out near 59 degrees. And on the water, south winds increase to 10 to 15 knots, higher gusts possible, seas around 4 feet. The current water temperature is 52 degrees. At Cambridge, high tide 10:48 a.m., low tide 5:40 p.m., high tide 11:21 p.m. And at Rehoboth Beach, low tide 8:41 a.m., high tide 2:40 p.m., low tide 8:38 p.m. I'm Phil Jensko.
Welcome to the Delmarva Peninsula, and thanks for listening to 92.7 and 98.5. The Talk of Delmarva.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Consumer sentiment plunged this month. The University of Michigan's reading slumped to 47.6, the lowest level since the U of M has been doing the survey. Economists were expecting it to come in at 52. Though those surveyed see current conditions holding up for now, expectations for the future decline, and they see inflation rising in the next year. Investors are monitoring the latest developments in the Iran conflict following an update on inflation that was not as severe as predicted. The Consumer Price Index rose 0.9% last month, a big jump. For the year ending in March, prices were up 3.3%, though core CPI, excluding food and energy, was only slightly higher than the month before at 2.6%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda, invested in you.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's NobleGoldInvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
And we're back in DS2, your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us. And I want to welcome back to the program Dr. Murray Sabrin, who is a emeritus professor of finance at Ramapo College in New Jersey. That's my Tom Kane imitation. He's laughing because he knows who I'm imitating. It does sound like Tom Kane, doesn't it? The New Jersey? I'm sorry, Professor?
Go on the road with that one.
Yeah. Oh, don't give up the day job, one or the other, right? Judge Napolitano calls Dr. Sabrin a courageous genius and an intellectual giant, and this is part of our countdown to 250. Now, I want to apologize to Dr. Murray Sabrin. We had set up where Dr. Sabrin was going to be on every Friday, and last Friday, I'm going to be very honest with you, my friends, I screwed up, and here's what happened, and I'm going to be as candid as I possibly can. As you know, and I want to get too far into the woods on this, 2 months ago, I slipped on the ice and suffered a serious concussion, which I am still suffering from today. And there are times when the symptoms, and I'm still undergoing treatments, and I see doctors almost on a daily basis, and I'm not going into that, but there are still moments where I'm still suffering from the effects of that. And part of that is short-term memory lapse periodically. And, well, I had short-term memory lapse last week when I was scheduling and putting together this show. And one of the things that I did was literally forget that Dr. Sabrin was supposed to be on with us last Friday. So I apologized, and I got in touch with the woman who coordinates Dr. Sabrin's segments and apologized to her and let her know what happened. And now I'm apologizing to Dr. Sabrin and apologizing to all of you. And all I can say is I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm doing the best I can to get better, but I unfortunately can't heal any faster than, as my father used to say, the man upstairs is going to heal me. So with that, Dr. Sabrin, it's not going to happen again. I assure you I've taken steps to make sure it's not going to happen again. And I'm so pleased to have you back on this program so that we can talk about the countdown to 250, celebrating 250 years of American independence. So I hope that you can forgive me for what happened last week. It was my fault and 100% my fault.
Oh, you don't have to apologize to me. Things happen in life. We all do things that are short-term issues. So again, I just hope you heal quickly because with that in mind, I don't know if you know, but I have a new podcast called Health, Wealth, and the Pursuit of Happiness, which began this week, and it's on my YouTube channel.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube on the Murray Sabrin channel.
Okay, Sabrin, my friends. Okay, go ahead, Professor, please.
No, I'm so pleased to be with you because 250 years ago, the colonists tried to get Canada to come and be part of the revolution and secede from Great Britain, but they didn't have any of it. Could you imagine if the colonies and Canada became one big country? Maybe they wouldn't have socialized medicine up in Canada, or maybe we would have, since they had socialized medicine since the 1960s. But anyway,
yes, but there would have been one problem. We would have had too many French settlers in this country then.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, French cuisine is probably better than what we're eating today.
Good point.
So anyway, what we're seeing today is really we need to resurrect the principles of the Declaration, because again, I've been at this a long time, looking at the economy, see how it's evolved since my childhood in the 1950s and 60s, and we're far away from the principles of 1776 of independence. That's why we have tens of millions of people dependent upon the federal government for basic sustenance between Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and all these other programs that we have, food stamps, which is now called SNAP. The American people are no longer financially independent. And that, I think, is a real problem. That's driving the debt, the deficit. And we just passed $39 trillion in national debt. We're going to have $40 trillion in no time. The debt is rising at around $2 trillion a year, which means the interest on the debt is the fastest rising component of the federal budget. These things are unsustainable financially. We know no family, no business can run up these deficits and stay financially healthy. And a country can't do it either. Argentina has had problems in the past. Greece and other countries that have spent more than they've taken in. And there's absolutely no desire in Washington to rein in spending. Spending is going to go up in the next fiscal year by another several $100 billion. And that's why I created a MAFI, Make Americans Financially Independent, with a step-by-step approach to get the American people off of the ties to Washington regarding financial dependency.
Now, Judge Napolitano was on the show yesterday, and he made a very interesting statement. And as we head into our 250th anniversary, he made a bold statement that he doesn't think many, if any, of those who are in office on Capitol Hill really know what's in the Constitution. What do you say to that, Dr. Sabrin?
Oh, I've been saying this for decades because Article 1, Section 8 is very clear. In fact, I gave a presentation to my neighbors and invited guests last month on the federal budget and the Constitution. That presentation is also available on my YouTube channel. I spent an hour going over the evolution of spending in the United States and how it's not consistent with the Constitution, and why the 10th Amendment, which says that if it's not an enumerated power of the federal government, it reverts to the states or the people. So if the American people want to have retirement benefits paid through taxes. It should be done at the state level. But we have a private system called 401ks and IRAs. We have the doctor-patient relationship that can handle all our medical needs. We can buy a catastrophic medical policy if we have a big ticket item for medical care. We can help people in our communities with nonprofits. That's the old-fashioned American way of volunteerism, of mutual aid at the local level to help people get on their feet. Instead, we have this monstrosity called the welfare state, where every problem it requires a federal program, according to people on the left and some people on the right. I mean, there are people in the Republican Party that don't want to touch Medicare and Medicaid when the federal government has no responsibility in medical care. It's not there in Article 1, Section 8. And yet people and the members of Congress vote for budgets, the president signs budgets in violation of their oath to the Constitution.
So what is the message then as we Americans understand that Congress as a body, both houses, it is severely broken, Dr. Sabrin, and it has to be fixed. And the 250th anniversary of our country approaches. Tell us what we need to do. Lay out for us what is our first step to repairing the damage that has been done and getting us back on track of fiscal stability with respect to our economy and our budget.
Well, that's why I made this presentation, and our presentation talking about the disconnect between the federal budget and the Constitution. And I wish everyone in America could watch this, especially members of Congress. It's on my YouTube channel. It's called The Federal Budget and the Constitution, The Great Disconnect. And I lay out the case that virtually all of federal spending is unauthorized, which means that the federal government can't do anything because it passes a law. It has to be an authorized, legitimate constitutional authority. For example, the federal government passed prohibition. It went through the constitutional amendment process because there's nothing in the Constitution that gives the federal government the authority to ban the manufacture and sale of alcohol. The income tax, the Supreme Court knocked down an income tax provision of a tariff bill in 1894. So the people who wanted an income tax said, let's amend the Constitution. Then it becomes a legitimate function of the federal government to impose a direct income tax. We can go on and on of things that should be done through the amendment process as opposed to just passing a law, because my reading of Article 1, Section 8 is clear. There's nothing about healthcare, housing, aid to agriculture, food stamps, anything that requires us to be financially independent of buying something based upon our income and then trading amongst each other. That is freedom. That is what I think the founders envisioned for this country. Of course, there was cronyism right from the beginning, but the point is, the overwhelming sentiment of of people in the United States was, we are free and independent people. If there are any issues, we'll deal with them at the local level. We won't look to Washington. But the great trauma that occurred in this country happened 90 years ago with the Great Depression, where people looked to Washington to solve their problems. And then we were off to the races with the New Deal, the Great Society, and whatever's come down the pike, Obamacare, you name it. It's happened because of this notion that the federal government is responsible for the lives of the American people. All the federal government is responsible for is to keep a country safe from attack. That's it.
So, Dr. Sabrin, as we head into the 250th anniversary, is a change in mindset of every American enough to change Washington? Because right now we have a bunch of people on Capitol Hill that feel that Washington is the big brother that is responsible for taking care of every American. And it's a very serious problem. We didn't get the $39 trillion in debt just overnight from some haphazard spending. There is a general misunderstanding or lack of understanding or refusal to accept what's in the Constitution, right?
Well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing with the creation of Make Americans Financially Independent at MAFIUSA.com. That's why I'm doing my podcast, to help people become not only mentally and physically independent, but to be financially independent. That, I think, is the great benefit of living in a country where we have as much freedom as possible, but we should have more freedom. If we had more freedom, we wouldn't have to file an income tax next week with the federal government, which is an abomination as far as I'm concerned. Even though it's illegal, it's constitutional. But the question is, what harm is it doing to the country? It's not doing the harm that makes the economy stagnate. We still have enough economic freedom, and that's why we have nearly a $30 trillion GDP. But a lot of that is government spending. That's the big flaw in the way GDP is calculated. So what I'm advocating is people understand what the Constitution means, create a business, be as proficient as you can in the job that you have, and if you want another job, get the training as soon as possible. When I started teaching at the college 40 plus years ago, I was in my 5th career. And the reason I was able to have 5 different careers is because I was constantly learning about how to do things that would get me in another position. And that's what I told my students. Learn as many things as you can, because if the first job that you want or first career is not available, then you have a fallback position and another fallback position. And that, I think, is the way that some people lead their lives, because if they get fed up with the workplace, they create their own business. And that's the beauty of America. You can start an online business for very little money. And of course,
the opportunities are limitless. Professor, we've got to wrap it up. Professor Murray Sabrin, PhD. Thank you so much. The countdown to 250 will continue next Friday. Professor, thank you so much, and good luck with the YouTube channel.
Thanks for being with you, Jake, and have a safe and healthy weekend and a week.
Thank you, and we'll see you next Friday, Professor. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. My friends, Salute the Troops comes up in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 69. South winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 50 tonight. Mainly clear skies. Mainly sunny tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 69. Daytime highs approaching 67 Sunday under mainly sunny skies. 79 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Currently, it's 54 degrees.
MJ Powell, weekdays 3 to 6, here on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. Jake Smith, mid-mornings on WGMD.
When the job gets tough, your boots need to be tougher. From the farm to the job site, Vernon Powell has the area's best selection of work boots from trusted brands like Harriet, Carhartt, Red Wing, and Timberland Pro. Let the trained staff at Vernon Powell find you the perfect fit with big and extra wide sizes. Plus, customize your boots with a huge selection of insoles for extra comfort. Boots feel good at Vernon Powell in Salisbury and Rehoboth Beach. Locally owned and operated since 1936.
Vernon Powell shoes and the athletes step it out in style.
The Talk of Delmarva's Delmarva Dollar Sale was a huge success. If you're one of the smart shoppers who took advantage of the Talk of Delmarva's Delmarva Dollar Sale, here are just a few of the many sponsored locations to spend your Delmarva dollars.
Atlantic Transportation, serving all of Delmarva. Sandy Hill Greenhouses, Georgetown. Southern States Milford Co-op in Milford.
For a complete list of all the Delmarva Dollar sponsors, visit thetalkofdelmarva.com.
Hi, I'm Connor, and I'm part of the commercial design team at Giuliani Associates. Law firms, medical practices, financial offices. Your space should reflect your professionalism, but it also has to function every day. Circulation, privacy, durability, efficiency. We design tenant fit-outs and commercial spaces that work operationally and position your business for growth. Giuliani Associates. Architecture is an investment. Design at betterdelmarva.com. Design at betterdelmarva.com.
If your church, club, or civic organization is holding an event, the Talk of Delmarva wants to hear about it. We'll help spread the word from the Atlantic Ocean to the Chesapeake Bay, from Pocomoke to Dover. Be sure to include what the event is, who it's for if it's a benefit, and when and where the event will take place, and include a contact number. Send your information at least 2 weeks ahead of time by email to psa@wgmd.com. You'll also find that information on the Contact Us page at thetalkofdelmarva.com.
To honor those men and women who have defended freedom whenever and wherever it was threatened. The Talk of Delmarva presents Salute the Troops.
Salute the Troops honors the sacred memory of U.S. Army Sergeant William
Joseph Murphy, who was born on September 16, 1950, and was killed in Vietnam on February 16, 1970. Murphy hailed from Bear. William J. Murphy enlisted in the United States Army and began his tour in Vietnam on May 11, 1969. His military occupation or specialty was light weapons infantry. He was attached to 173rd Airborne Brigade, 75th Infantry Ranger, C Company. On that fateful day, February 16, 1970, Murphy's unit was assigned a combat operation. They encountered a hostile force. Murphy was struck, suffering multiple fragmentation wounds in Binh Duan Province, South Vietnam. Sergeant William J. Murphy was just 19 years of age. At the time of his death, Sergeant Murphy was survived by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Henry J. Murphy. Murphy was posthumously awarded the Bronze Star Medal for Valor with Combat Distinguishing Device V for his exemplary gallantry in action. He was also awarded the Bronze Star Medal for Merit for his sustained meritorious service. Salute the Troops honors the ultimate sacrifice of U.S. Army Sergeant William J. Murphy. For without Murphy's courage and valor in battle, if not for his decision to serve this nation defending freedom in South Vietnam, this nation could not. The first state would never have remained free. May this grateful nation and a grateful Delaware never forget U.S. Army Sergeant William J. Murphy of Bear. William Joseph Murphy was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. He is honored on the wall, panel 13W, line 20. For Salute the Troops, I'm Jake Smith.
Delaware veterans, if you need information, the Talk of Delmarva has what you need, from the Veterans Crisis Line to housing help to medical help. Through the Delaware Veterans Coalition, you'll find information affecting all generations of Delaware's veterans. Delaware Veterans Affairs has help for veterans, especially those dealing with veterans benefits. You'll find assistance and support services in one location. Delaware Veterans information at the Community Outreach under the Extras tab at thetalkofdelmarva.com.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Digital Interactive Friday continues. I'm your anchorman, Jake Smith. Thank you, Wolf. He says, outstanding show. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Wolf. We appreciate that. Thank you to all our Dial producers who submitted questions today and who were discussing and debating in the Dial Lounge. I just want to get to a headline in Fox News. It says, quote, Iran openly defying United States as Trump issues warning on key oil route access. Iran's ceasefire promise unravels as 3,200 vessels pile up outside the Strait of Hormuz. Wow. Okay. Well, my friends, I just don't know how much longer this farce is going to continue. Farce, I mean this ceasefire. Will it hold for the weekend? I don't know. I just think that the regime is not going to capitulate to the United States. It's not going to shake hands with the United States. They just won't. And I'm telling you, as sure as I'm sitting here behind this golden microphone, this camera, John Kerry has got himself involved in this behind the scenes, telling the Iranians, advising the Iranians what to do, to delay and to stretch this out as long as they can to damage Donald Trump and his administration due to what will happen from the results of the 2026 midterms. I'm telling you, as sure as I'm sitting here, John Kerry is involved. He's been in cahoots with the regime for years, and he should be brought up on charges of treason. Remember the Logan Act? No one ever gets hauled in and put in chains with respect to the Logan Act, do they? But John Kerry is one that certainly should. Wolf asks if General Holt will have Tosh on dangerous intellectuals. That's a good question. I'm going to reach out to the general later today. Thank you very much. My friends, that wraps up this edition of your News Talk America Digital Interactive Friday. Thanks for tuning in, whether you are watching, whether you are listening, or perhaps doing both. Remember, you have a voice. Make sure your voice is heard loud and clear. Millie, Triel, you're home. See you Monday. Have a great weekend.
92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford, the talk of Delmarva.